Hey guys, good day, and thanks for coming back to the next video. Guys, I posted something on my community page last night that's been brewing inside of me for quite a while now. And I've talked about it before on a video I did. Let's see where, right here, this one. This about Ezekiel's timeline for judgment of the church. And I want to just speak about a speculative timeline that I created, and I did this just for us to have a map of what possibly could be going on. So what I have here is I posted this timeline. Hopefully you guys can see this. Okay, I think you can. So this is a repeat of what I've spoken about in the past in reference to this Daniel's 70th week of years. And it's sometimes referred to as the tribulation. Now, I don't like to refer to it as a tribulation because I don't think that's what Jesus says. And I've done videos about that in the past, and maybe I'll leave a link for that. But this 70th week of Daniel is referenced other places in the Bible, but it's really only referenced in Daniel 9:27 directly. And I have a document that speaks about that, and that's right here. Daniel 9, and he shall make a strong covenant with many for 1 week, 7 years, and for half of the week, 3.5 years, he shall put an end to sacrifice and offering. And on the wing of abomination shall come one who makes desolate until the decree is poured out on the desolator. Now, this verse has been looked at every which way till Sunday about who is he and all that stuff. I'm taking the traditional view here, at least with this video, that this is that 7-year period, and in the middle is this abomination that causes desolation here, AOD, that Jesus makes a reference to. He says, and when you see the abomination spoken of by the prophet Daniel speaks about this, then you flee and get out of Dodge and all that stuff. So that's the point here, is this 7-year, 70th week that many people call the tribulation, which I don't call it that. I call it the 70th week of Daniel. I laid that out here, and I've put this timeline together based on 3 different sets of clues, which I've spoken about in the past. I'm going to quickly show them to you. I'm not going to go through them. The main set of clues is these 2 cows that were born essentially on the same day, Jewish New Year, 2014. They have a 7 on their head. Both of them do. They were born, one was born in Texas, one was born in Pennsylvania, and they called it Big Ben after Ben Roethlisberger back in 2014. My thought is that these 2 cows being born is essentially a redo of the dream that Pharaoh had. And Joseph, the modern day Josephs, are the ones who are interpreting this dream to mean that when the 7 good years and the 7 bad years occur. And we know that from 2014 to 2021, if you look at the harvest, at least in certain years, I think 2015, 2016, the farmers in the Midwest had the most plentiful harvest in history. So I'm just making an assumption here. Hey, this seems like it points to the 7 bad years being 2021 and 2028. Now, there's also 2 other clues here. The fig tree generation. I've done a video about this, guys. And when you look at Psalm 90, this is a psalm that was written by Moses, which is kind of strange because we thought David wrote all the psalms. And he speaks to this generation that Jesus speaks about, Matthew 24, being 70 or 80 years. But if you go to 80 years, you will have toil and trouble. Then we fly away. So teach us to number your days, is what Moses says, that we may get a heart of wisdom. So this video I'm doing, I am numbering the days. Return, O Lord, how long? That's what Moses is saying. This is what we are saying. This psalm is what we are saying ourselves, us the watchmen. So when you look at the dates from 1948, you go out 80 years to 2028, you go back 7. And this guy calls, this is not my picture, he calls this the 7-year tribulation. I would call it the 70th week of Daniel. he points to, quote, this rapture occurring prior to that. And we're going to look at that in a second. Then there's another set of clues you can see using Daniel 9 and Hosea 6, which you guys, look, I'm not going to go through it, but it's another reason why 8028 and you add 2,000 years to get 2028. So I've seen some people who have put, let me just show this. This is a diagram I had a while back where they put they have the, quote, 70th week of Daniel, what they say is the tribulation, beginning in the fall of 2021. I don't see it that way. I'm using the clues from the cows and the two other clues that all point to 2028. They're right here. That Revelation 19, that Jesus returns in Revelation 19 on a white horse in 2028. I'm using that as the 7 bad years. Okay, so then what am I even talking about over here? This is a new concept that I'm picking out of the scripture. I'm calling it the days of punishment. And I'm doing this because I've been reading the prophet Ezekiel. And the prophet Ezekiel is a watchman. So what about these days of punishment? Now, I didn't make a document. I just didn't have time. So guys, if you go to the Bible Gateway, you type in day punishment, you can see that there are multiple references to the day of punishment. This is essentially when God comes to judge the earth. He's going to begin with judgment in the house of God. I've shown that on videos. He's coming to judge his own people first. Let me just go here and just quickly show this. It's Psalm 50. I've done many documents about it. I think you guys have probably seen it before. But this is the timeline when the Lord's going to like an overall timeline. It says that our God comes. He doesn't keep silent. He's devouring fire. He's coming to the earth. Our God comes. Here he is coming. And what does he do? He gathers to me my faithful ones, those who made a covenant with me by sacrifice. Then, after he gathers up those people, he says, "Hear, O my people, to the left behind. I will speak, O Israel, the whole house of Israel. I testify this against you. I am God, your God." He's coming to judge his people first. Okay? So, let me go back. So the days of punishment, I have outlined these days of punishment on my timeline right here. The days of punishment. And I refer to Ezekiel 5. And there's 390 days for the house of Israel and 40 days for the house of Judah. Now, why do I put these days of punishment in front of this 7-year time frame? Because it fits right now. That's why. Because of fall of 2021 is when the 7 years begins. Daniel 7. So we have this, it just conveniently fits right now. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But let's go back and look at these days of punishment that are spoken about in the Bible. What will you do on the day of punishment in the ruin that will come from afar? Jeremiah 46. For the day of their calamity has come, the time of their punishment. Jeremiah 50. Woe to them, for the day of their punishment comes. We even learn about that the days of punishment is the same time as the days of the watchman. Here, we're going to look at Ezekiel in a second, but Ezekiel lays out these days for us. Ezekiel gives us a timeline for these days. Hosea 5. Ephraim shall become a desolation in the day of punishment. Well, we already know about that from Pastor Dana's video. The days of punishment have come. The days of recompense have come. The prophet is a fool. The man of spirit is mad, crazy, because of their great iniquity. Okay. Here, the best of them are like a briar. This is Micah 7:4. Upright them like a thorn of hedge. The day of your watchmen, of your punishment has come. Now there is confusion in the land. Okay. So Micah is connecting up the day of punishment with the day of the watchman. If we go to Hosea, we see the same exact thing. Hosea 9. Let's see where it is here. Right here. The days of punishment have come. The days of recompense have come. Did you see Glinda's word today? She said recompense starts today. Glinda Lomax has a word. Recompense starts today, July 13th. Israel shall know it. The prophet is a fool. Okay? Yet the prophet is a watchman of Ephraim with my God. Now, I've looked at this verse 100 times. I think it says the prophet is a watchman and he is with God. He's with my God, physically maybe, but connected spiritually. Yet the fowler snare is on all his ways. So there's going to be a fowler trying to trap this watchman, and there is hatred in the house of God. They have deeply corrupted themselves, as in the days of Gibeah. He will remember their iniquity, and he will punish their sins. Okay, so this days of punishment, when I started to read Ezekiel, I realized that these days of punishment that Ezekiel had to play out. So in chapter 4 of Ezekiel, so if you are a watchman, okay, then you're playing out what Ezekiel has had to go through. So you start with Ezekiel 1, read through it. Now, it starts about on the 5th day of the 4th month, he has this vision, which has already passed. But we'll see, maybe the Lord will play with time a little bit and give us that vision a little bit later. I don't know. But when you get to Ezekiel 3, he calls this watchman, right, to eat a scroll and learn about what his watchman duties are going to be. Okay, you'll notice that the Apostle John eats a scroll in Revelation 10. It's sweet initially, but then it turns bitter. I think John's going to be martyred. I think John's one of the 2 witnesses, in my opinion. Then a Revelation gets killed at the midpoint of those 7 years. Okay, so the Son of Man has to go to the house of Israel, the Christian church, and speak to the elders there. And they have hard foreheads. And the Lord says, I've made your forehead just as hard. Go tell them what's getting ready to go down. So Ezekiel, the watchman, who's playing this part that we're going to play, are going to go to the leaders of the church and sit with them for 7 days. And we're going to explain to them everything that's going to go down. Then what happens next is Ezekiel is told that he has to lay on his sides, left side and right side, that represents the punishment of the house of Israel, the Christian church, for 390 days. And they represent the years of punishment, those days. And then for Judah, the house of Judah, who are the Jews. See, the house of Judah and the house of Israel are not the same group. They're 2 different groups. People get that confused. But for Judah's got to he's got to lay on his right side for 40 days. Okay, so what caused me to put this timeline together in such a way that I have is the Jews already observe 40 days of Teshuvah. You guys have probably heard about this Teshuvah thing. They already do that. Now, what I did was I just said, well, let's pretend that Ezekiel's 40 days, that he's laying on his right side for 40 days. Let's just say that that was a precursor to what the Jews already do. So that caused me to by the way, Ezekiel lays on his left side for 390 days for the house of Israel first. Then he lays on his right side 40 days for the Jews. Now the Jews, their modern observance of this has given me the understanding that it's going to end on Yom Kippur for them. Okay, so let me just quickly go to a Hebrew for Christians. You guys have probably seen this before. Hebrew for Christians. This explains Elul and the season of Teshuvah. You see technically it begins on the 30th of Av, and it goes for 40 days out to Yom Kippur, right here. These are the 40 days of punishment that Ezekiel's going to lay on his right side, and these are the 40 days that the Jews, the house of Judah, already does. So that's what caused me to put the timing as I've done. And this is, I'm just speculating, guys. I'm not making any thus saith the Lord's. So what you see on my little diagram here is this Yom Kippur. I've lost track of my cursor. I can't. There it is down there. This Yom Kippur goes 10 days into the 7 years. And that lands on September 16th. Okay. So look, I'm not date setting. I'm giving you guys a calculation. So if you go to any old date calculator and you put September 16th in and you go backwards in time, 390 days, it lands on today, July 13th. July 13th. Now, what does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean rapture. It doesn't mean it. What it means is today appears to be, based upon this analysis, the beginning of the days of punishment. Now, what does that mean? That means we might see the Christian church. Remember, judgment's going to begin in the house of God, in the Christian church, according to Peter. That would mean that we're going to see some type of punishment, judgment today. I don't know if we will or not. Don't have a clue. I'm just offering it up as a what-if scenario. Now, what if this timing moves into the 7 years? It might. It could go in, it could start next year for all I know. I don't know. But let's look at another clue. Let's look at the book of Revelation, chapter 12, with this woman who has to spend, this is the lukewarm church, thrust into the wilderness after the man-child is raptured. Let's look how this interacts with what the woman is told. And this is why I think it's a whole year out. This is why I think the 430, the 390, and the 40 is outside of the 7 years. I'm getting very detailed in here. I'm going to point to a few things. Just kind of go with me, guys. So if we go to the woman, I've done a video about this in the past. The Revelation 12 woman is going to go into the wilderness for 1,260 days. But before she goes into the wilderness, she will receive a 1-year warning. Okay, so the left behind, the lukewarm church, will be given a 1-year warning before being sent into the wilderness after the bride, the man-child, is raptured by the young lions, the harvesting bride. So when you get to Isaiah 31, you see a reference to the Jerusalem, the bride, being protected by the Lord and yanked out of here. Okay, this is what occurs. And then you get into Isaiah 32. It says this: "Rise up, you women who are at ease." This is the lukewarm church woman. "Hear my voice, you complacent daughters. Give ear to my speech. In a year and a few days," 390 days, Ezekiel 5, "you will shudder." It's a 1-year warning. "You complacent women, for the grape harvest fails." So in 1 year, the grape harvest will fail, and that's in the middle of the summer. "The fruit harvest will not come. Tremble, you women who are at ease. Shudder." Okay? "Make yourselves bare. Tie sackcloth around your waist." Whenever you see sackcloth, that means the little ones are taken. "Beat your breasts for the pleasant fields, for the fruitful vine, for the soil of my people growing up thorns and thistles." That's the sixth seal reference. When you see thorns and thistles, the sixth seal has occurred. "Yes, for all your joyous houses will in the exalted city are just ruined." You're going to do this until the Spirit is poured out from on high, and the wilderness becomes a fruitful field. And the fruitful field is deemed a forest. Then justice will dwell in the wilderness. So then this lukewarm church is going to be sent, ushered into the wilderness to be protected. The Lord's going to come save them. But they had to deal with this judgment here of this 1 year. And then as they go into the wilderness, it's going to hail when the forest falls down. If you know, that's the first trumpet judgment, Revelation 8. So I have a comment here. Jesus himself will come and usher the left behind church into the wilderness and plead with them face to face. He'll say, "Where is your face? Where is your faith? Why have you sacrificed your little ones?" When you get this from Ezekiel 20. He basically goes to them and he asks them, why have you offered your children up to fire? Why have you aborted all your babies? And then in verse 33 of Ezekiel 20, he says, "I'm going to be king over you, whether you like it or not," essentially is what he's saying. "And I will bring you into the wilderness of the peoples, and there I will plead with you face to face." This is Jesus speaking to that woman in the wilderness. Hosea 2 makes the same reference. "I will allure her, bring her into the wilderness, and speak tenderly to her." But before all that, she's going to have to go through the days of punishment. Guys, I've already gone over this before. You guys can look at it on previous videos, but you guys can download this woman that has a 1-year warning, a year and a few days. Then she goes into the wilderness, and we can tie all that into this diagram. So the 1-year warning, 390 days, the days of punishment. Then she goes into the wilderness. Right here, the woman to 1,260 days. So, look, Is something going to happen today? I don't know. Just look for it. Now, could I be off here date-wise? I don't know. Maybe. I'm just offering up all the clues that I've been able to see with all of this, guys. And let me just check. Is that about it? You remember how long? Okay. There's still some discussions about whether there is a 7-year tribulation. And I would say that there is not a 7-year tribulation. There is a 7-year period. Like I said, that's the 70th week. Right? And let me just jump back here. One other thing. So I can't see my cursor to even draw in here. Okay. So one thing that's been very confusing to people is that I would draw a line right here at the fall of 2021. And from here on is Revelation 11. Go to Revelation 11, you get the two witnesses, right? Revelation 12, you got the woman. Revelation 13, you have the beast ruling for 42 months. And in Daniel 9, he's going to wear out the saints. These are the saints. These are the tribulation saints that became believers. And I think these are a lot of the Jews that become believers after the abomination. So I was once a believer that said I didn't believe in a, quote, 7-year period. But when I began to look at the 7 references, and here's a document I put in here, how long and when is a tribulation. I put the traditional timeline here. And when you look, there are 7 references. Revelation 11, they're going to trample the city for 42 months. Daniel 12, they're going to shatter the power of the people for 3.5 years, a time and half a time. Revelation 11, the two witnesses will prophesy for 1,260 days. Notice that the two witnesses get 1,260 days, okay? And the woman gets 1,260 days. That's why I put the woman and the witnesses here in the first part of it. That's a clue that connects them two together. Okay? But then the other woman in Revelation 12, there's 2 women in Revelation at the end. That woman is nourished in the wilderness for 3.5 times and half a time. So I think there's a second group, a second woman group that I think is mostly Jews and people who come to believe after the abomination. They get ushered into the wilderness for the second half of the 3.5 years. Now so I would see the second half of the 3.5 years, the time and half a times, being the Daniel 7 beast, the Revelation 13 beast, who gets 42 months. And the 42 months is when they trample the city. So if you go back to I'll go back to my other timeline. That's why I have strategically placed things on the right side and things on the left side of this 3.5 year, of this middle point of abomination. So you can see here, the 2 witnesses, Revelation 11, the Revelation 12 woman, they get on the left side. I think there's a rapture at the midpoint when the 2 witnesses die at the end of Revelation 11. I think there is a rapture of the 2 witnesses and this woman that's in the wilderness. And I think another group after the abomination, another group of women, quote woman, goes into the wilderness, and this woman's carried on an eagle. That's what it says. I think it's mostly Jewish believers and people who came to believe. And then the Lord comes in the fall of 2028. Now, so when I did this original diagram here, I didn't understand the part on the left here. I didn't know about Ezekiel, but now I'm replacing Ezekiel with these days of punishment. I did call them the days of Noah, the period of service for the bride. I still think that's true. Let me go back to my document here. Okay. I think that is about it for now. So I'm just taking a lot of clues, lots of things. I'll just quickly summarize. Start with the cows. That this gives us the bad years. Then we go to Psalm 90. This gives us 2028 again. We have a second, and then we have a third clue down here. I'll leave a link to this document. This talks about Jesus's 1 year ministry that ended in 28 AD. That's, I think, when Jesus was crucified in 28 AD. The woman sent into the wilderness who's given a 1-year time frame. That's what it says. And we'll just see. We'll see if the days, remember it said in Psalm 90, count the days. I've counted up the days, 430, from Tishri 10, September 16th, and going backwards, and it lands on today. So guys, with that, I'll let you go. Have a great day, and God bless you.